All right, let's turn our attention now to a great crossover story. A lot of themes that we've been discussing through the summer coming together here. The retail investor, the IPO market. This one comes to us from Asia, where we have shares of Big Hit Entertainment. That is the music label that's behind BTS, of course, one of the biggest K-pop acts out there in the world. They have priced their IPO at the high end of the range, and there are expectations that a lot of demand for this offering will be driven by individual investors, basically fans of BTS that want to buy shares in Big Hit Entertainment. And Melody Hahm, it's all coming together. It's sort of like we joked about it on our meeting today. It's like the Penn National version of music fans, but for a much larger market, which of course would be the K-pop market, dwarfs in comparison to what we see in, sports betting here in the US.
Oh yeah, and the Davy day trader equivalent, they're actually called the ants. That's what the South Korean government calls retail investors. The ants really helped catapult South Korea out of the recession in 2008 and the global crisis that ensued, and a lot of retail investors got into the game during that time. So the comparisons are really uncanny here. Couple things I want to draw out from this news. Fans are quite literally the fans of BTS, known as the Army. They're throwing money at this IPO, right? They want any piece of BTS they can possibly grab. We know that every merch collab has sold out, whether it's with Lisa Frank, Mattel dolls, and the like. So of course, they want to get a piece of potential growth out of BTS. One thing I want to know is that Big Hit Entertainment, 97% of their revenue in 2019 came from BTS. They have a bunch of other bands in their portfolio, including Glam. 2AM actually was one of my favorite bands back in the day. They were only around for a couple of years. So just the life cycle of pop groups, not only in Korea, but if you look at the NSYNCs, the Spice Girls, the Backstreet Boys, you can't just trade the Backstreet Boys, right? Because the Backstreet Boys will no longer exist in their form, let's say in 2-3 years. The average life cycle lasts around 4 to 6 years, and BTS members are already in their mid to late 20s. So realistically speaking, as a publicly tradable asset, I just can't really anticipate that the BTS trade alone will be able to sustain itself. We do know that Bang Si-hyuk, who's the founder and CEO of Big Hit, he is known as the hit maker. That is his reputation. He used to work at all the other major record labels within South Korea, and he actually founded Big Hit Entertainment about 15 years ago. No one is kind of doubting his ability to really craft and create the next big artist and the next big artist group, but we do know that the construction of whether it's One Direction or Danity Kane or every other group out there, they do not survive. So I think that's one huge question mark, even though, of course, for the retail investors, this is just an opportunity. It's another moment of frenzy. And then when you think about the wealth creation that's happening for the insiders, it's actually a huge win. When you look at the South Korean reporting of this news, they're saying this is finally a time when the artists themselves can benefit from their success. What I mean by that is we know that there have been a lot of kind of excruciating labor issues when it comes to the artists and their training, and they're very poorly compensated. It basically is likened to slave labor camps. Big Hit Entertainment has actually been a pioneer at trying to make that reputation go away, try to erect some of those issues. And if you think about it, Bang actually still owns 43% of Big Hit, so he will become a billionaire, of course. But even the individual 7 members, they were each given about 68,000 shares, which is the equivalent right now of about 7.8 million US dollars. So yes, that may not be worth, or that's not the proper compensation, but I think relative to what we've seen in the industry, especially in the K-pop world, that's seen as a huge win for the artist community.
Yeah, well, it's funny you brought up the Backstreet Boys of all the bands of our youth, because, well, they famously made no money from being in the Backstreet Boys, and that's why they're playing a residency in Vegas, or were playing a residency in Vegas. And, you can kind of go through the way you put together these super groups. You have all the recipes of things that will never last and are completely combustible, and where the talent themselves are just not going to be compensated. And even still, I mean, $8 million in shares each is not compensation commensurate with the size or the scope of BTS's fandom and fame around the world. But yeah, it's probably better than what happened to the guys in Backstreet Boys. You basically get written out of all the contracts, and you have no chance of making it. Of course, Justin Timberlake goes rogue with NSYNC, and then they're all done, but those guys still have to grind it out on the reality TV circuit or whatever they're doing now. So again, it's a tough life, I think, for those folks in those bands.
And then one other thing, Myles, some 1,420 institutional investors wanted to get into this IPO and pre-subscription offers. That's about 1,117 times the number actually available. That's according to the official filing from Big Hit Entertainment today. About 98% of those folks said they would pay the exact top price of the range or more. So to that point, when you look at South Korea, this is going to be the biggest IPO in at least 3 years. In terms of oversubscription numbers, this is higher than SK Biopharmaceuticals, but it's still lower than Kakao Group, which of course is the WeChat, the WhatsApp within the Korean community. So yeah, the hype, the pent-up demand is there. It's just how long can this sort of a company sustain itself with 7 guys? Very likely will not be 7 guys, even perhaps next year, right? Just the amorphous quality of it is a little bit dangerous and dicey, to say the least.
And 7 guys who have been able to be, performing in 6 months now. Who knows when you can have a big kind of BTS style concert again? So a lot of questions certainly for this group, but it looks like it will be a very successful initial offering when Big Hit Entertainment shares do indeed start trading on the market. That is expected coming up next month.